Greetings, governors and adventurers. Once again, I am Old Man Mordaith, the community ambassador with the Crusader Kings 3 team, and today we bring you Dev Diary 156, Modding and Achievements. We start off with the words of Yetz, the programmer behind the barbershop upgrade and message settings, and with them, we will explore Domiciles, the system behind estates and camps. When building Domiciles, it was made in close collaboration with artists, designers, and UX. Nobody wanted to work with another activity locale window again, so gathering the learnings and feedback, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for anyone to set the amount of building slots, their positioning, or size and appearance based on triggers, all while having it updated by hot reloading in real time. To get some terminology out of the way, we decided on 3 different domicile building slot types. The 3 slot types we have are main, external, and internal. Main is the building slot of your home building. It differs from the external slot in that its building is auto-constructed at the start for free and is indestructible. Otherwise, it's handled just like any other external building slot. We decided on 1 main slot per domicile type, but there is no cap, so technically you can add as many as you want. With external, this is the visual building slot you see when you open the window. It has 4 states: locked, unlocked, under construction, and constructed. Clicking an unlocked slot opens the building panel where you select what building you want to construct in that slot. There is a new character modifier, Domicile External Slots Capacity Add, which sub-determines how many extra slots are unlocked. Finally, we get to internal slots. For estates, we added internal building slots for its main building, and for camps, we put them in the external buildings. But it's not enforced, so any external buildings can host internal slots. They do share the same 4 states as external slots, even though it's visually presented in another way. With Roads to Power, we add camps and estates as 2 new domicile types. What domicile type to use is set per government type. Each domicile has base external slots, which sets how many slots always are unlocked before the Domicile External Slots Capacity Add modifier is applied. In the Domicile Building Slots array, you define the amount of external building slots the domicile type has. Because it's an array, you're free to add as many or as few building slots as you'd like. Camps have fewer building slots than estates, so we made its artwork slightly bigger to get the zoomed-in feeling. For each slot, you can define if it's main or external, its position and size, and what image to select for the empty and under construction slot states, meaning each slot can look unique if you so desire. The order of definition is only relevant when drawing the slots on the screen, as the first items will appear behind the last items of the array. In the above example, you can see we have several empty slot assets defined where slot asset appearance is selected by a trigger depending on current location. Make sure to have at least 1 empty slot asset and 1 construction slot asset per slot to cover the states. The background of the window is selected in the same manner by defining domicile asset that will pick the first triggered match starting from the top. If a domicile type uses provisions or not while moving is determined by a bool. Whether the domicile type will have a followers window and handle follower temperament will automatically be enabled if you start adding domicile temperament low modifier or domicile temperament high modifier. As presented, some things are self-explanatory, but others are not that straightforward. Allowed domicile types is an array defining what domicile types this building will be available for. If not specified, this building won't show up anywhere. Previous building is arguably the most complex, as setting what building comes before this is what the upgrade tree structure will be based on. It is fully dynamic, so you can make the tree as simple or as complex as you wish, regardless what slot type the building is. Speaking of, slot type determines in what slot you may construct the building. But please note that setting the previous building of an internal building requires its predecessor to either be an internal building or being the base building of an external or main building track. Internal buildings cannot be base buildings, so all internal buildings will require a previous building. Internal slots will define how many internal slots this building hosts, regardless if it's an external or main building. Please don't add any internal slots to internal buildings, as that would start to get pretty silly. Finally, we have asset. Works just like assets for the domicile types and may be selected by triggers as well. While not shown, it is worth mentioning that we also have can construct trigger and on start, on canceled, and on complete effects. As you may have noticed in some screenshots, we have structured the decision window into collapsible groups. What decision belongs in which collapsible group and in what sort order is fully moddable. The only thing you have to do is set the decision group type to the key on the decision to have it show up within a specific collapsible group. The keys are defined in the decision group type database. We use GUI tags as an arbitrary string to check for within GUI files, changing how they should be presented, and you could easily append with your own in the same manner if you want a unique look. Okay, so let's talk about message settings and the upcoming changes to them. Each message can define its own message filter type to be handled as. These filters are defined in a separate database. In the filters database, you can set the default behavior of messages of the filter. You can set its display type, always show if it never can be hidden, auto pause by default, and finally, the collapsible group it will belong to. All but the always show would get overridden as a player starts changing their own setting. Message groups work exactly like decision groups mentioned before, but without the GUI tag functionality. We have added shortcuts on each message to allow quick locating of their respective filters. We've also added a text field to search through your message filter list. And here is an exciting update for some of us: custom messages. This gives you the ability to write messages to your future self, reminding you about things of importance. Okay, folks, now we're going to go over to Jor, a programmer on the CK3 team, and we're going to talk about development tool improvements. With their previous experience as a modder and being part of the central GSG tools team before coming to CK3, Jor has seen our dev tools from many different angles. Developing or modding any grand strategy game can be an overwhelming task, given the sheer amount of systems and visualization layers that work together to create a believable world. But we can help ourselves by improving the weapons that we have to wrangle this beast, our development tools. The modding community knows this all too well. And often the modding community has created better tools than the dev teams themselves. Look, they often do outdo us, but to be fair, they outnumber us as well. We have improved a number of the in-game dev tools during the development of this expansion. And as a modding-friendly game, you get to use them too. Here is a probably not complete overview. First, we have the Object Explorer. This is a tool often used to check out what's going on in the simulated world while it's running. We tweaked its UX a bit. To access this tool, you can run Explorer console command. You can also open the inspector part of it by Control-Alt mouse clicking any portrait. Improvements include the following. We made the edit input box bigger. We added provider name to title of dockable. Save as default also remembers the size and position of the object browser window. Object browsers stack whenever opened on top of each other. And Object Inspector will now always open to the right of the browser window instead of on top of it. In addition, hitting Control-Enter while typing in the text box will auto-apply it. And a small bug fix, Alt-Tab no longer kills half your typed text in the text box. Okay, now let's talk about script debug logs. Okay, so that honker of a text file called errors.log, it is usually filled with messages of shame from a strict and mysterious machine overlord. We have cautiously convinced it to perhaps tell us a bit more than error on line 0. Improvements here include scripted effects and triggers state their actual line number instead of the relative line number. And they also state their full file name. Multi-line script errors go last to first instead of last, first to last. They're now in an order like most stack traces. Script file lines mention extra context in parentheses behind them, the name of the object they were in with potentially their subpart. Mean time to happen script calls now actually put their script location in the logs too. And finally, as minor as it may seem, a bit of extra indenting for visual clarity. We also now follow script execution chains through more layers, more verbose, but ultimately easier to track down where things went wrong. For example, with events triggering other events. Moving on, we get to the localization syntax checker. Almost all of the text of our game lives in a large amount of YML text files. We call these files and their entries lock after localization. But they're also responsible for our text formatting, and they can call data script functions as well. A complex database where it is easy to make a small mistake that goes unseen, until spotted by our talented translators or our very observant player base. Improvements include us adding a high-level localization syntax checker at game startup on all localization keys of the current language. This, of course, when using in debug mode. This checks for extra and unterminated lock symbols, but also checks for invalid use of text replacement within data functions. Beyond the syntax checker, we've also made improvements to formatting to make the process easier. We're going to end this section off with a few various improvements that defy stricter categorization. One improvement is the map debug menu works again in our release version. It still worked in our internal development build, but modders brought this to our attention. And, to much fanfare, the script profiler, originally from Victoria 3, has been ported over to CK3. And finally, we've made various changes to the AI watch window. Watch windows are one of the tools at ours and modders' disposal, and some of these are receiving some minor improvements. The first improvement to speak of is the AI watch window, which contains various information regarding some of the AI logic and how the AI consider things like marriage, activities, and, relevant to this entry, available CVs. One of the improvements we've made to the AI is that they will now consider a ruler's military power rather than their military strength. Let's clarify the distinction. Strength is the raw numbers a ruler has no matter what troops they are. All military calculations up until now have been based on this. Power is a more accurate representation in that it combines a regiment's combined damage and toughness and multiplies that with the strength of the regiment. The short of it is this: the AI now knows that levies are much weaker than men-at-arms and knights when both declaring wars and picking battles. To make it easier for ourselves when investigating how the AI picks available CBs, we are exposing the AI's power calculation and the power they estimate other rulers to have. It is important to note that this calculation is affected by the ruler's personality when targeting administrative realms, such as that a craven ruler will overestimate a target's power, while a bold ruler will underestimate a target's power. A craven ruler will assume all governors operate at peak efficiency, while a bold ruler will assume them all to be useless administrators barely fit for office. These calculations can now be seen in the AI watch window in the CB section. Furthermore, while in debug mode, the military strength tooltip in the character window will also show an entry for the ruler's military power. Next, we see an improvement to the AI War Coordinator watch window. While this is not a window that helps modders too much, as the items shown within are more relevant to us who have access to the source code, it can be worth for those who modify the strength of levies and knights. While rarely relevant for modders, the AI War Coordinator watch window can be of value when modders change the calculus of war by modifying the strength of levies, men-at-arms, and knights. This allows them to see if their tweaks have had the desired effect on strength on the sides of the war. The military power information is also available in the character window when you are using debug mode. So, warfare modding. New modders often ask the question, can I mod armies and regiments? For the longest time, we have not allowed any sort of warfare modding, to the point where our modding community has had the command !warfare modding for the longest time on their Discord server, first proposed in 2022. Now we are retiring some of these points. We are adding a whole suite of effects and triggers that affects regiments. Yes, we are making regiments a scope and various ways to access them. You'll now be able to create, destroy, change size of, and add troops to regiments from script. Here is an example of the refill MAA with provisions effect as an example where one of them is used. Another thing we're adding with Roads to Power is dynamically changing commanders in battles. While not directly moddable, this does mean that one can add temporary modifiers to commanders to swap them around. With the Start War script effect, it has some downsides because you have to specify exactly which war you want to start, and you might not know which CB and targets might be available to a character. Troublesome. You will have to wait for a general AI war background process to kick off a war you want to start. So to give our script a bit more power, we have added a new complex effect called AI Start Best War, which can be used only for AI characters. It will go through all the valid wars a character could start at this moment and gives you the opportunity to select them by means of the Is Valid trigger. Out of all the wars selected this way, the effect will start the one with the highest AI score, which is determined by the regular AI scoring mechanism for wars, which is a combination of code-based score and script-based AI score calculation on CB. The outcome of the effect can be further acted on by its two sub-effects, on success and on failure. It is a key component of how we made characters with our new Conqueror trait extra aggressive. As mentioned in a previous dev diary, the contents of the music player are moddable. For those who are already modding music into the game, there's just a few more steps you have to do in order to have the songs show in the music player. We add the music tracks we wish to put into the music player into categories. To do this, they must be implemented with the exampled files structure. The music.txt file contains information on the tracks themselves, and in order to have them localized, they all must have a name equal lotkey field. The music category text files will then contain information on the categories and tracks contained within. It is important to note that the ID field in these categories must be unique. Now to the topic of flavorization. For the uninitiated, this is what separates the petty king from the duke, the emperor from the vasileos, and the divine empress from the empress bishop. The big thing of note from before is that we're encapsulating previous true-false flags in a container to collect them all. This is to improve legibility when new rules are added. Here we see the full structure of supported members. The entire structure was undocumented previously, so all modders had to go on was how we previously used it. An up-to-date info file on the structures will be coming with Roads to Power, so you can make your own flavorful modifications to titles, names, and the like. As of Roads to Power, naming conventions of characters with their titles, title tier names, and domicile names are supported. So this is like Emperor Chad to Holy Emperor Chad, Duchy to Petty Kingdom, and Estate to Family Holding. An interesting thing we discovered while adding features to the flavorization system was we already supported looking for character flags. It was just never documented. Our designers were enthusiastic about the revelation. Our programmers were not so enthusiastic about the designers' enthusiasm. Fair warning to our modders. the flavorization system can get very expensive to do in terms of execution. So, as much as we know better than to say this, but use it responsibly. And here we are talking about achievements, and to do so, we're going to be hearing the words of Razier. Razier has come to us with a preview of the achievements coming with Roads to Power. And first, we're going to take a look at the easy ones, going to the harder ones as we go down the list. Starting off, we have Historically Inaccurate. Choose to set out on an adventure as a spawned historical character. As we mentioned in a previous dev diary, we have had historical characters such as Dante or Fibonacci spawning across the map. If you get one of them to appear in your realm while owning Roads to Power, you will have the option to set out on an adventure as this character. Band of Brothers. Have every camp follower's temperament be positive and have at least 10 camp followers. Take care of the people in your camp, and this one should come rather easily. However, it's not entirely trivial to get people to join your camp in the first place. Quantum Leap. Choose a new destiny 5 times in the same campaign. A callback to an old way to play the game, harkening back to the CK2 days, switching which character you played every time you died. Now this is supported by the game, making it easier than ever. Birthright. As a legitimate adventurer, win a claymore for a kingdom or empire. Now we're getting into the more difficult achievements. This one can happen naturally, but a fun thing to try is by playing Harold in the 1066 invasion of England and then returning to reclaim the crown from William. Epic Paperwork. Adopt the administrative government via decision. Quite straightforward. Create a large realm, then adopt the new government form. In Good Estate. Upgrade your estate with a level 5 villa and fill all external slots. Deceptively hard, seeing as there are a lot of buildings to construct in your estate. It's okay, I got a permit. As a non-powerful family, buy a remit and successfully raid the estate of a powerful family. Buddy up with the Emperor and then smite your enemies with his permission. You will probably find a lot of enemies while playing in Byzantium, so you should be motivated to pursue this. Despotic. As a co-emperor, rule a despotate. If you're really chummy with the Emperor, you might get named co-emperor, and as co-emperor, you can demand a larger share of the realm to rule as your own. Not content to serve, in 1178 started as the Paleologos and become emperors of Byzantium. This achievement is based on history. The Paleologos dynasty became the longest ruling dynasty in Byzantine history after having served faithfully for a long time. Started from the bottom, now we're here. As an adventurer, buy an estate in Byzantium and lead your line to become emperors. Now, this is a fun challenge. Save up a lot of gold in order to weasel your way into becoming a noble family, which is easier if you adopt the Byzantine state faith, and then use your influence to claim the throne. Good luck! The Old Man of the Mountain. Complete Hassan Sabbah's unique content by destroying an empire. And now it's time for the harder achievements. Here, if you follow the story of the historical founder of the Assassins, it will culminate in the dissolution of an empire. Historically the Seljuks, but you can take him anywhere. Mio Cid. Complete El Cid's unique content with the An Honorable Man ending. Playing as El Cid, you will have plenty of choices. This is following his historical path. Regnum Dei. As Baudouin of Jerusalem in 1178 defeats Saladin in a war. Saladin starts out as a conqueror, so this is a tall feat to pull off. You have a few years to prepare for his invasion, as he tends to go for Central Arabia before holy warring for Jerusalem. New management, same as the old management. As an Islamic Sultanate of Rum, adopt administrative government while owning Constantinople. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Having a Turkish-dominated Islamic administrative empire is a fun challenge to pursue, especially seeing how Byzantium can still pack quite a punch despite having lost a lot of territories to you in the 1178 bookmark. Rags to riches to rags to riches. Starting as a count, rule an empire, become an adventurer, then rule an empire again. This is a natural continuation of the venerable rags to riches achievement from the base game. Tamar Mipa. As Princess Tamar, rule all of Georgia and fully conquer Armenia and Dalam. Georgia had plans on holy warring for these territories, but in history this plan didn't come to fruition. An interesting and plausible alternative history scenario to pursue. Chaos is a ladder. Become a dominant family within Byzantium. You have to work hard in climbing the political ladder to achieve the position of dominant family. Try putting as many family members in important positions as you can. Against all odds, starting in 1178, take the decision to re-establish the Theodosian borders. In 1178, Byzantium is at a low point, making it a fun challenge to not only survive, but thrive. Busy work. Have 5 simultaneous house members as Thema governors, not including you, while not being the emperor. A perfect achievement to pursue in combination with chaos is a ladder. Despoiler of Byzantium. Become the emperor of a newly formed Latin empire through a crusade. If you wish to pursue this, we recommend the 1178 bookmark, as it is very likely for this to happen around that time. And that is it for this week, but we have a few more things we want to talk about, so stay tuned for next week's Dev Diary. And, as always, for all news CK3 related, be sure to subscribe to this channel.